Happy Self-Love Sunday. I am Mo Sass, the host of Self-Love Sundays with Sass. I am a certified life coach who likes to consider herself an aide in the village that walks along people's journeys to help them achieve the life they so desperately desire, whether that's in terms of relationships, financial stability, relationships of all kinds too, right? Financial stability, creating a vision for their lives, entrepreneurship, creating a plan B, whatever that is that you desire to do. I actually walk alongside your journey and help you to see whatever roadblocks may be in your way or things that are just missing that you just can't see because we all can't see ourselves, right? So that you can achieve the life that you so desperately desire. So, oh my God, guys, it has been it's been a whirlwind. I don't know about you, but it has been a whirlwind for me. And last week, I talked to you guys about, mindset and things of that nature. And if you didn't get an opportunity to check it out, please go back on my YouTube channel or the podcast, right? The audio, and check out what I talked about last week. So this week, I said we were going to talk a little bit about codependency, but I want to expand on that a little bit because what I started to think about as I thought about this topic is, what are some of the back doors that you need to close in your life so that you can move forward into this new season, into this new year, right? That's coming up. Okay, so when I think about, back doors, right, we can talk about many different things like such as people pleasing or codependency, right? Those are just some things, right? But what are some old limiting beliefs? What lack mentality, what traumas and or healing do you feel you need to work on? What doors do you need to close that are literally stopping you from walking into your next season of your life, the next chapter of life, whatever you call it, right? See, now is the time to really dig deep in it because most people are like, oh, new year, new me. And it's like, that's not really how that happens. You should be forecasting for 2022 now. As a matter of fact, I already have my theme for 2022 for myself, right? So along with that, though, it's what are some of the things that are in your way that have stopped you so far from achieving some of the goals that you wanted to? For example, most people in the beginning of the year, it's always weight loss. It always is, right? I'm going to get healthier and fit this year. And the question to ask yourself is what has been in my way or what has gotten in my way previously that I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve? Because if you start to tap into that, that will help you when you start to walk into this new journey. And the thing about it is most times it's just doing it. It's, we get fear or we allow busyness or whatever that is to get in the way of what we want to achieve. And most times it's our subconscious mind. And that's why I talked about ways to combat, what happens in the subconscious mind is negative, y'all. And real talk, I don't care especially because I like to talk to people who are in this work too. I work with a lot of healers. I believe that's my calling, to heal the healers. When you're in this work, most times you have the most difficult time, right? Because you're in the work. And it's like, you think that you're on this positive track and you're very optimistic and outgoing, all these things. And I've worked on my healing, girl. I've worked on my healing, right? And then you get into that relationship. I'm raising my hand, right? With those people, those group of individuals, and or a personal relationship with a partner, a spouse, or whatever. And you're triggered all over the place. And you're like, wait a minute, what is going on here, right? I've done this work. And what happens to us is we don't realize because we are in the work or we're entrenched in the work so much that the subconscious part of us, there is still some old things in there that we have to work out. We have to dig through. And it starts with being in curiosity. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit today. And I want to state up front one thing, because this is a thing that I notice in my practice a lot. When you listen to, I don't care if it's my podcast or anyone else's podcast that you choose to listen to, or whatever article you choose to listen to, or whoever you listen to on social media, the point of this, of us bringing content to you, is not to take this content and beat yourself over the head up with it or other people, right? The purpose of of us doing this is to make you aware of different things that are out there, different modalities. We come with different ways of delivering the content. So it's to take it and to remain in curiosity about it. Ask yourself some questions about it. If something resonates with you, then okay, take that. And if you decide to work with a professional, whether it's a therapist or a life coach, hello, www.moesass.com. Reach out to me. Life coaching with sass is just a W, not with spelled out, on Instagram and Facebook, right? If you decide to work with a life coach, but this is not meant to beat yourself up, and say, you're the worst of the worst. That's not what it's about. It's about awareness, self-awareness. I really want to say that. And why do I want to say it? The truth of the matter is that's what I've done for years. When I first got serious about stepping into my healing, I would beat myself up so bad about what I didn't know. Right? It's only when you know better that you can do better. You understand what I'm saying? Think about that for a second. If you don't know any better, you can't do any better. And once you level up and you know better, then you can do better, right? You make amends. I always say, if you mess it up, clean it up, right? If you lied, don't stay with the lie, right? Be honest. But here's the thing. When I talk about the lie, I'm mainly talking about the lie that you told yourself. This is not always about other people. Sometimes we lie to ourselves. We say different things to ourselves when really it's something different. So when, we talk about, let's, for example, right? Let's talk about, people pleasing. Hello, my people pleasers. I used to be really bad at this. And what is people pleasing, right? People pleasing is when you desire to make other people so happy that you say yes when you really want to say no, right? It's like you put the needs and the desires of everyone else in front of you. Some of the things, and what does that look like, right? So taking on tasks, you really don't have time for. I've done that a million times over. Dropped everything that I needed to get done to go help somebody else. Am I saying to you, don't help other people? No. What I'm saying to you is you have to calculate what it costs you sometimes. Real talk. Putting others' needs above your own. And then you're burnt out mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You're tapped out. Healers, we have to come back and fill our cup up. A part of what we do is give ourselves away. And we should be giving it away based upon overflow and not killing our reserves, right? The need to be liked or to be around everybody. Let me tell you something. If you decide to do this work, everybody is not going to like you. I've come to learn with my double Leo self, either people love me or they hate me, and neither one of them is my business. Do you understand me? If I walk in being completely authentically myself, if I walk in not people pleasing, not doing things to get something in return, not placing my expectations, and I have done these things, that's why I'm saying this up front, placing my expectations, expecting people to, just because I got through it, it's like, what you talking about? I got through it. I got through burying, 2 sons. Literally, you can't get through that. You know what I mean? That attitude, I've done it. It's not a great place to be. You can't place your expectations on it. And you can't say just because you got through something, someone else is going to be able to come through the same way as you, and let's be truthful. And Sarah Jake said this, and I had to be honest with myself. Look, half the time I barely made it through, right? So, but these are the things that I had to come to learn. And once I learned these things, then I consistently level up and get better, right? And constantly swallowing your true thoughts because you don't want to upset people. Now, I've done this too. Now, there comes a time when you get to hold your tongue. Real talk is you listen. There comes a point where you just don't need to say some things to people, right? There comes a point where, I'm really tapped into my spirituality. So there comes a point where I just need to pray about it and shut my lips, right? It's that thing just don't need to be said. That's a little bit different than when you're consistently swallowing how you, especially in a relationship, done that too, consistently swallowing my truth. But most times I'm swallowing my truth because I'm shrinking myself to fit in a place where I'm really shouldn't be. And that's not saying that you're better than somebody. This is saying listen, you're compromising too much. You're compromising your beliefs, your thought patterns, everything to fit in a place you just really shouldn't be, right? So those are some of the things. And feeling like your worth is dependent upon somebody else happy. So if you make others happy, then okay, that means that I'm worth something. That's kind of some of the things that people pleasers do, right? So just to kind of give you some context around it, and it doesn't make you some bad person. It just makes this is something that we get to work on, right? Putting yourself and your needs first, because if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of other people. I say it all the time. Self-love and self-care is not selfish. It's a necessity. I have learned through trial and error of giving myself completely away, giving my finances completely away, and putting myself in the ditch. And then here I am by myself, real talk, by myself, crying to God, how am I going to get out of this bind I put myself in? And then I want to blame the other person. And let's talk about this too. I'm going to get to codependency, but I really want to talk about this because I say this a lot and I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying when I say take accountability for your life. Stop blaming other people. Does that mean that people don't do things that hurt us? No. Does that mean that people can't say things to us that hurt our feelings or, make us feel some kind of way? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying to you is you get to make a choice. You're not a victim. You don't have to sit there and allow it. If someone's physically and mentally and emotionally abusing you or manipulating you or gaslighting you, you can't keep pointing the finger at them. You know what? The first time is like, shame on them. Second, third time, it's a shame on you. You get to make a choice. You don't have to stay in that. Stop believing that you can fix people. Stop believing that you can change people. I live that life. You cannot. The only person that, first of all, I don't believe in calling people broken. So like people need to be fixed. Listen, we all have traumas, things that we get to work on. We've all had things in our childhood that we had to deal with and, work through and didn't understand, whether it's our parent, whether being raised by a single mother, father leaving, whether being raised by a single dad, mother leaving, whether being raised in a household with two parents and it was toxic as hell. You know what I'm saying? So whatever that is, people were molested, raped, touched, all these things that happened to us when we were younger. These are our things to work on. Okay. So when I'm talking to you, I'm not saying blame yourself because you were in a relationship with a man who hit you, or you were in a relationship with a woman who verbally abused you, or vice versa, right? Or you were in a relationship with someone who manipulated the hell out of you, or let's talk about a toxic trait. I love to use myself in these examples because I want people to come here and understand I don't think that I'm better than you. I just learned some tips and tools and have some things in my bag that help me so I can walk through as I grew through those things. So I want to talk about this toxic trait because it's going to lead into this codependency. One of my biggest toxic traits was I would walk in and I would overgive. I would walk into a relationship with a man. I want to be clear. And overgive, I've done this with my kids too. Overgive, right? Overgive. And most times I would say, well, I was doing that because my heart is in the right place, right? I love people. And if I can help, I want to help. But here's where it became toxic though. When I looked at that help and I said, like, okay, but I'm here. I'm helping you. I've helped you financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Like I'm pouring into you, pouring into you. And you just like sitting here and there is like no change. Like you're not doing anything. My expectation I placed on them was you're going to like, I'm doing this. So why can't you move? Like, why can't you see that, you're not doing anything? Like, why can't you see that? Like, listen, I'm telling you everything that I've done to be successful, but yet you still watching 4 hours of television. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, right? But that's not okay. Number one, the overgiving. Why are you overgiving? Why are you oversharing? Why are you overbearing? Those are questions that you have to step back and ask myself. And I had to ask myself, like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? Most times it's because I'm with someone that I saw potential in, right? So you have to ask yourself, do you want a partner or do you want potential? And then what happens is you start to pour into the potential of the person. It's like, oh, I see this heart. Like, I know. It's like, oh my God, he's this, he's that. Da, 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 da. God granted me with the gift of seeing into people, the gift of seeing who they really are at their core, right? Which is a wonderful gift, and not using the right way can become a toxic gift, because then I'm pointing out all the bad things and I'm not seeing seeing what's right in front of me. And not to say that what's right in front of me isn't bad or good, it's just what it is, right? And most times it starts to make people feel not worthy. Like, you can really take something that you mean for good and really, really twist it. So these are some of the things that I had to work on, and I had to really start asking myself, like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you doing that? For example, I would lend money, and I would hear all the time people say, like, listen, if you lend money, you have to lend it with the like the knowing that you're not going to get that money back. So when you lend it, don't lend it from your last, because, and especially if, like, for example, your rent money, your mortgage money, right? Your food money, you know, whatever this money was for, don't give it from that place, because if you don't get it back, then what happens to you? And then you're upset with the person, and you're pissed off, and you're calling them, and you're upset, and you're telling everybody. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, everybody doesn't have your character. And I feel like somebody needs to hear that. And I needed to hear that, because, like, for me, this is how I go into things, right? I'm telling you this for a reason. I go into it like, listen, I've borrowed money from my parents before, my brother before, and friends. Like, I haven't, my sister, because I haven't always been in a place where I was good. You know, I was a welfare mother. But the thing about my character was, there was two things to it. Number one, I was like, you know, I understood, like, if somebody borrowed, my parents instilled that into me, though. You borrow for somebody, you pay that back. That's a character. That's integrity. Right? And if something comes up, of course, you say something to the person, because, again, it's character, it's integrity. That's number one. And number two was my pride, honey. I'm going to be honest. My pride and ego was like, you're not going to hold that over my head. Because I've seen it done. I've seen it where people, like, you know, would borrow, and, you know, whatever things would happen, and people, like, for the rest of their life would hold over their head. And I was like, you're not going to do that, right? So, you know, it's just, that's my personality. You know, if I borrow for somebody, I'm going to give it back. But I had to come to learn, everybody doesn't have that. Everybody doesn't have integrity. Everybody doesn't have that kind of character. Everybody doesn't have it. And am I saying these people are the worst of the worst? No, I'm just saying, like, listen, that's who they are. It is what it is. Okay. And then I get to make a decision. Now, listen to me. I get to make a decision and a choice whether or not these people get to stay in my life or I stay in theirs. I can sit and hope and pray that, you know, some of me will rub off on them, right? Or I get to say, you know what? I get to move on. Right? This is not, this right here isn't for me. And that doesn't mean, again, I'm putting somebody down. Like, listen, I walk away in love. I am a strong proponent of that. I want to say that. So what I'm trying to convey to you is like, when I say I'm taking my power back, I'm taking the power back over my life. I'm questioning, you know, like, what is it in me? You know, like, I didn't love myself enough to see this, or to walk away from this, or to allow the physical abuse, or allow the verbal abuse, right? See, you see what I'm doing with that? I'm having a conversation with myself. I'm questioning me. I'm not like, okay, listen, everything was this fault. But at some point I have to say, well, listen, what is it in you that you thought that you could stay? What is it in you that you thought that you could play God and fix this person or heal their traumas, right? It's different, because especially for people who are in this kind of work, sometimes we take our work into our relationships, and we cannot do that. This is a lesson that I had to learn in more than once. So I want to come with that message, because, listen, I do this work and I fall into these traps, right? So if you're some person that doesn't do this work, so stop beating yourself up, okay? We know better, we do better. So codependency, and I want to talk about it. This was something that, you know, was a phrase that was coined, you know, back for people who were dealing with people with drug and alcohol addiction. But, you know, psychologists and experts found that this addiction affects the entire family, right? And often results toxic and unhealthy relationships, right? So the person who is addicted contributes to codependent relationship, but their partners contribute too. So it's not just the person who's doing the drugs and or the alcohol or has the trauma or the issue. It's the person that they're in partnership with, right? So, you know, there is so much more to this. And I'm going to say this too. Because these videos are short, I can't really get into depths with these topics sometimes, but I really want to say that Codependency is the need to feel needed. Like, I really want to simplify it, right? One person, the person who you can say is sick or has an addiction, some people say damage, right? Whether they're battling whatever addiction that they're battling, right? Or something else, needs their partner to take care of them. Their partner, right? I.e. me, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to own it. I don't know if you're going to own it. Don't judge me. Judge your mom. I said it, right? The partner in turn has a need to be needed. So then we start contributing to this cycle of, because I need to be needed and they have, and they have a need, I'm constantly feeding it and don't even realize I'm therefore contributing to the bad behaviors, right? So for example, let's say, for example, a person who has, I know that they have an issue not doing the right things with their money. Whatever they're doing with it, I know that they're not doing the right things with it. And they asked me to borrow money. Now, I already know the real. I know, first of all, my intuition and my gut, even without proof, has told me, and I kind of know a little bit about their character, right? That they are not to be trusted with money. They're not doing the right things with their money, right? So their trauma is around financial issues, right? However that came about, whether it's that need to, a lot of people feel this need to be something else for other people, right? To show out, like to make it appear like they're the man or they're the woman, and they got this and they got that. So their toxic trait came in this fronting, needing to put on this front for other people, for people to see them in this light. So because people see them in this light, then that makes that they tie that to their self-worth, right? But I know this already. So they asked me to borrow money. Now, here's the thing, right? So again, because, I feel the need to be needed, right? Oh, I'm gonna show that I'm gonna give my last, I'm gonna give you the shirt off my back. I then allowed them to borrow the money that I already knew that I wasn't getting back. I said it because most times we know, right? And then what happens? They do the very thing that I knew, which is not pay it back or whatever. So, and it creates this cycle. They do the wrong things with the money, because if they're not going to do the right things with their money, they ain't going to do the right things with the money you let them borrow. Let's just be real with it. It's one thing if you know the person is working and they're changing their behavior. But if they've always squandered it away, and you know they're gonna do it, and then and this is the great part, right? So then we'll see them like, I went out to eat and I went and got this, and you like, what? You went out to eat? What? You went and bought this person this and that. Meanwhile, I let you borrow some of my last, right? Because most people, you don't know what other people are going through, and you just gonna let me drown? Here I am, got to figure out how to pay this bill. See what happens there? I really want to stop for a second. Because that's what happens. And now you're like going crazy, but you knew the truth, right? You knew the truth. And also the number one rule, do not take from your household to give to someone else. Listen, am I saying don't give? No, but you got to be careful with that. Because I got into a place where I was like, these bills were due. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do? And now I'm pissed off, and they don't care. They're going on about their life. They're going out to eat, baby. They're going to get that food. They're going to buy whatever they want to buy for their kid, or do whatever they did before to squander their money away. And they're not going to worry about it. So you have all these worries. It's happened to me more often than not. And that's when I had to realize it's not them, it's me. There's something that I need to work on. Why am I doing this? And this is the thing about when you know you're on a healing track, you start to question yourself. When you're triggered, you're like, why? Why am I feeling that way? Like, okay, they said this, but why am I doing that? Why am I responding that way? I'm gonna give you another example in the story. Me and my daughter, this was the other night. Like, I had just had it with my kids not really helping around the house. Like, I'm like, all right, listen, let's do it, right? I set these rules up. We had these conversations. So we get into it a little bit, and literally, I could see this was my 14-year-old self fighting with her 11-year-old self, and my 16-year-old self was like, I will bust you up. Like, it was like I was in it and could see myself, right? So I'm telling you this story for a reason. In it and could see myself, like, I'm going there. And then slowly, as I started to see, I was like, all right, you got to change the narrative of this. But at first I didn't. So let me tell you what God showed me about me. My pride. My pride is real, y'all. And let me tell you something. Pride does cometh before the fall. I'm telling each and every person that watches this video, you can walk in pride all you want, but you will fall in that pride. You will mess relationships up on that pride. You will mess up your relationship. I'm talking about with your children, with your partner, with your spouse, in business, all of your in pride. Do you understand me? So I come up to my room because I'm still in my pride, y'all. I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of this. Like, I'm the mother. I take care of everything, the least they can do. Which part of this is right? Okay? I'm not saying I was wrong in it, but what took the right thing, and it's not really about right and wrong. It's like what made it wrong in a sense was when I went there. When the little girl showed up on the scene and was like, listen, I started speaking my trauma and not my truth, and now we're battling. So then I come up stomping up to my room like, I've had it. Okay, so what God was showing me in that moment, it was like, okay, your pride is all up and through the way of this thing. And, you need to apologize, right? So at first I was like, but when you've done this work, right, you understand that, you know what? If you can, the whole point of the work is to consistently do better. And pride does come up before the fall, and it's going to mess up your relationship. So what did I do? Of course, I apologized, and we had a good conversation, and it made lead way for us to communicate better. Which was a beautiful thing in the end, right? So why am I sharing this with you? To let you know, like, you're gonna mess it up sometimes, but when you mess it up, you have to clean it up. Real talk. Or you can not, right? And allow the relationship to be what it is, right? You could lie to yourself, because a lot of people do, right? And they make excuses. Well, she deserved it, right? I could lie to myself. A lot of people tell a lot of lies, right? Lie and be like, well, they deserved it, right? Okay, but that's not really the truth, and you know the truth. So doing this work also allows you to work from a place of integrity, if that makes sense. So, just kind of want to get into right now some of the questions, to ask yourself if you're not sure if you're, a people pleasing or codependent relationship. And here's what I really want to say when we get into this too, right, is that the most important thing, I don't like labels. I really don't like labels. Because people take them and they're like, oh, this is just who I am. I'm this and I'm not. It's like, you don't have to be any of those things. And I also understand the importance of why they exist in things of that nature. So I don't want you to get into these questions and be like, oh, this is all me and I'm this and I'm that. Please don't do that. Just allow it to be reflection. Allow it to bring up some curiosity about yourself. Ask some questions about yourself to see where in life that you may need to tweak things, or really just take some time and get with yourself. So the first one is, do you feel like you're walking on eggshells when you're around the other person? Most times when we're dealing with this, we're dealing with relationships, right? It's couples all the time, and it's like, you shouldn't feel like you're walking on eggshells around your partner. That just should not be. You should be able to have some communication, and not feel like if I say this is going to set them off, or if I do this is going to set them off. That's not living in your authentic truth. Okay. The second question is, do you give the other person what they ask for, even if it's enabling their bad behavior? So think about the example I gave about the money, right? When you already know what it is, right? So think about that. The third question is, do you use your role within the relationship to feel better about yourself? Now I'm gonna raise my hand because I have done this, okay? Plenty times over. It's like, oh, because if my man is happy, then I'm this and I'm that, right? If my kids is happy, I'm this and I'm that. And none of that defines you. It really doesn't. What truly defines you is, really knowing yourself and loving yourself, good and bad. And if whatever you feel that gets to be worked on, right, work on it. Okay. You can't get to that place if you hate yourself. Okay. Do you feel like you need to rescue the other person from whatever is afflicting them? Come on, I'll rescue folks. Okay. It's like, oh, but I can save them. And, if I just show them this, or if I just tweak that, well, the ex did them really, really bad. And if I just come in and do this, can't rescue people. Most times it's okay to help. I want to say that it's okay to help, but understand from what point are you helping? Okay. That's really important, because we get into this rescue thing, and most times we're rescuing because we ourselves want to be rescued. I am being 1000% honest, like Lid Talk is like, oh, come rescue me, right? Because I rescue others. Think about that. That's not the place where you should be doing that from. Okay. Do you have a fear of being abandoned or alone if you stop taking care of the other person? And this is why it's so important for people to love on themselves and to spend time alone. Not hopping from relationship to relationship because you fear being alone. Not being so busy being busy because you don't want to deal with your stuff. Okay. Most times that's why we're all here rescuing everybody. It's like, oh, I'm here and there and everybody's business and doing everything for everybody else, avoiding myself. Okay. Gotta look at that. Do you have a fear of being abandoned or alone if the other person is cured? So sometimes you have to ask yourself, are you feeding into this bad behavior because you know they're going to stay in that place? That means that you're always going to be needed. That means that they're not getting better. That's something you have to ask yourself. Okay. Do you have a fear? Do you have a fear of being abandoned or alone if the other person is cured? Or if their affliction in no longer, like if they no longer depend on you, it's the best way to say it. Like if they no longer need you anymore. Okay. Do you have a fear of that? So sometimes we feed into their bad behavior because we don't really want them to change. We don't really want them to grow because they'll need us. And if we feel needed, then we feel loved, right? Or we feel love, whatever that is. Do you have low self-esteem? Most people are off the bat be like, no. Ask yourself some real questions. Can you be alone? Are you always the person that needs to be busy? Are you the person that's rescuing? Oh, I got to go help everybody else. Meanwhile, your whole life is in disarray. Your whole life. Done it. Okay. Is it hard for you to trust yourself and make your own decisions? This is huge. This is huge because when we don't trust ourselves, people can really make us feel like we're crazy. And that's a lot of times where people get gaslighted and manipulated and all that because you don't trust what you know. You know what you know, and you are not crazy. That part. And I'm not saying walk in making assumptions. I'm just saying what I'm saying. Okay. Does your relationship with this person feel completely one-sided? You give and give and give and get nothing in return. Whew. That's a whole word within itself, somebody. That's a whole topic within itself. These one-sided relationships. Whew. Somebody. Give and give and give and give and give and give and give until you have nothing left. Okay? Once again, I'm talking to you from a place of an overgiver. That I did not say that was one of my toxic traits that I was blessed to work on because that will never happen again. I'm not saying I will never give, but that overgiving, giving, that one-sided, it's like, wait a minute, I've given mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, all this, right? And nothing in return because people are selfish as hell. Selfish. That's why when people think self-love is self. It's not selfish. You have to take care of you. Because if you think another person will, that when they want to, they'll pay you back when they feel like it, right? They'll love on you when they want to. They'll give when they feel like it. And you giving and giving and giving and giving. And then you looking around like, but see, this is what I'm talking about, where then you'll blame them. But you have to ask yourself, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Why are you even giving? Okay? Question some of these things within yourself, right? Do you feel like your own needs don't matter in the relationship because the other person needs help? You matter. Your feelings matter. Your heart matters. You matter. You have to know, but you have to know that. And that's, again, getting in touch with that self-esteem. You matter. Stop letting people manipulate you. That manipulation and playing on the emotions is real. That's a whole nother topic for another day too. Honey. Woo. And again, and the last question is, do you feel like you can't leave the relationship because the other person can't get along without you? Like, they're not going to be okay if you leave. I'm here to tell you that's a bona fide lie. Stop lying to yourself. They will be just fine. They will find somebody else to manipulate. They will find somebody else to use. They will find somebody else that'll be a giver. There's plenty of us out there. It's just the truth. It's just the truth, right? And again, I want to be clear. In this, some of these questions weren't just mine. I'm actually, I subscribe to there's a Black Therapist magazine. So some of these did come from them. So I always like to cite my sources as well. But the thing about it is am I saying that these people are completely terrible people? Am I saying that they're the worst of the worst? No, I'm not here to judge them. Now, I'm just gonna say, like, at the end of the day, people know what they're doing now. Some people really, they know what they're doing. Like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, they know what they're doing. So again, it's not about, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, he did this and he said that. I'm like, okay, but why did you give your power away? What is it in you that allowed that? What is it that you need to tweak? What is the root of that? Why are you accepting that behavior? Why are you giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving into the giving to the listen to them, their kids, just giving, and then you turn around and you look and it's like, whoa, I got this stack of bills over here or this thing, and I'm like, man, I can't make this payment. And why? Why are you giving at the expense of you and your family? I've done it. I had to ask myself this question over and over again, and I thought that it was love, and I realized it was a toxic trait that I literally had to understand why. For me, it was like, I've always fought for love. I never really knew what love was to some degree, right? So I always fought for it. So I thought that you had to give everything of yourself, right? I had to learn. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you now, it was a hard lesson. And again, I'm gonna tell you about these lessons. You'll learn and you'll get better, but you'll also see that you'll find yourself in the situation again too. And it is like kind of like a test. How much have you really learned, right? And I've learned that I get out a lot quicker than I used to. Come on now, somebody. Hey, sometimes that's what you have. Okay. So, again, I know we talked about a lot and there was a lot of questions and a lot of things. If you want to have some discussion, if you really want to dive a little bit deeper into it, again, I think that it's important for you to get with a professional, whether it's a therapist or a life coach, walk through these things. Don't just listen to podcasts. Don't just listen to social media and automatically assume that this is you or start labeling yourself or start beating yourself up. It's all about self-awareness, getting curiosity about yourself. Be curious about the things that you do. Ask yourself some questions. And again, I will say over and over and over again, pride and ego is going to be the death of so many of us. Okay. So this is another reason why it's so important to do the work. Stop lying to yourself and stop lying to other people. And if you mess it up, clean it up. Okay. I love you so very much. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Thank you for listening to me, because Mercury is in retrograde, y'all. There's so many things going on with these videos behind the scenes, and I'm steady working to try to get it out. So I thank you for rocking with me again. It's life coaching with the W, not the whole word spelled out. SAS, SASS on Facebook and Instagram. www.moesass, all is in Sam.com if you want to book with me. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.